Welcome to the Binge List. I am your host, Paul Chappell, and we are concluding our recap of WandaVision Season 1. And I was expecting so much more. I feel like one of those QAnon people. You mean there's no storm? The Democrats didn't all get arrested? I kind of felt that way. I mean, there was no Avengers, no crazy cameos, except for the one that we've already seen with Evan Peters. And even his conclusion wasn't really that mind-blowing. He was just a guy that Agatha Harkness was controlling. He was an actor. His name Richard Boner. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed, and I kind of held off on doing this recap. I kind of want to see what other critics were saying. I also had to do a review of Coming to America, which just came out yesterday. So there was that. But I felt like I knew what critics were going to be saying, because I felt like they were going to be underwhelmed like I was. And at the same time, I knew they were not going to say anything bad about it, because this is a female-led series. It's a pretty good female-led series for the most part. I'm not going to knock it. I'm not going to say it didn't have its moments. It did. But yeah, you see headlines like this on places like AV Club. The Scarlet Witch becomes the sorceress supreme in the satisfying conclusion of WandaVision. Whenever you hear a critic say satisfying, they didn't like it. No one said satisfying. It's either good, great, or bad. I mean, that's really it. Now, you can be kind of on the fence. So, yeah, satisfying would be what you would say if you were on the fence. It had its moments, but it wasn't great. Like another show I know, what could that show be called? Well, we won't mention any other shows. Here's another headline on Gizmodo. WandaVision's finale was what you made of it. Okay. I didn't read this article, but I can only guess what they're going to say. They're going to say, well, your expectations versus what you actually got, whatever, okay? Y'all brought Evan Peters on the show, and that should have been an indication that we were going to get this multiverse, which is not what we got. It was a clear indication to me. This is how they were going to resolve the issue with having all this Marvel content come from 20th Century Fox with all the mutants and the Fantastic Four and all that stuff. How were they going to rectify and integrate it into the main MCU? And that would have been an awesome way to do it. Just say, yeah, this is a parallel universe. This guy came from a parallel universe. They could have easily said that. Could have easily had Agatha Harkness actually pull somebody out of this multiverse to do that. I mean, I guess it made more sense for her just to be controlling some guy. But the fact that they cast Evan Peters from the X-Men movies is just, why even do that? It's just a lost opportunity. Okay, so let's talk about what happened during the episode. Of course, Agatha and Wanda battle, and it was seriously boring, because anytime you have witches throwing orbs at each other, it's just not interesting. It's the same problem I think they had in Harry Potter, and anytime you have anything involving wizards, it's going to be boring. It's just the nature of the beast. So it got kind of interesting when Wanda threw that car at Agatha. I thought, wow, this is okay. Now we need more of this. And then there was even that Wizard of Oz reference here. The boots and no witch. That was obviously a nod to Wizard of Oz. And if that wasn't enough, later in the episode when Wanda's freeing everybody, we see the town shifting between time periods. You can actually see here on the theater marquee, Oz, the Great and Powerful. Which brings me to my biggest question about this episode. Was Wanda really the villain of this show? We know what Agatha thinks of her. Agatha thinks she's the Scarlet Witch, which, as Agatha points out, has a whole chapter devoted to her in the Darkhold book of sorcery. The Darkhold was created in the dark dimension with dark matter. It is said to contain infinite knowledge to be used for evil misdeeds, I guess. So, and we see in the post-credit scene. Oh, by the way, if you watch this episode and thought there was only one post-credit scene, no, there was actually 2 post-credit scenes. So make sure you go back and watch it. But the first one, of course, is Monica Rambeau getting some kind of nod from S.H.I.E.L.D., maybe Nick Fury. We don't know. It might be one of the other scrolls that they were referring to. I expect that to be answered in Captain Marvel 2. It may have shades of Secret Invasion storyline coming. I don't know. Okay, but let's get back to the episode itself. The Darkhold book is something that Wanda has access to now because of Agatha Harkness. Her defeat of Agatha Harkness in this episode. I got some shades of Dark Phoenix from that final post-credit scene. The fact that she's in this exaggerated high-level state and she's reading the Darkhold book and she's gaining access to these dark spells. So I think that's where we're going with Wanda in future Avenger movies. And if it's anything like House of M, she can, like Agatha again stated in the episode, she can destroy the whole world or universe for that matter. She's so powerful. She did get her power from an Infinity Stone. Okay, the other big conflict in this episode was between the 2 visions, which I predicted last week, of course. The White Vision has been sent to kill the Vision of the Hex. I guess you can call them. Now, this confrontation was a little bit more interesting because there was more physicality to it. There wasn't 2 women throwing orbs at each other. They were actually throwing each other through, houses and buses and all this other stuff. But once the fight got to the point where you can see they could just phase through each other and they couldn't really hurt each other, it got kind of boring, which is why they had that whole philosophy meeting of minds resolution to their fight. Made more sense for who they are as individuals. They brought up the ship of Theseus, which is a metaphysical thought experiment, and I thought that was pretty interesting. It does resemble their dilemma, the fact that both of them are facsimiles of the original Vision, but the White Vision actually has some of the components and some new components mixed in to make him sentient. So is he still Vision, or is the Vision that Wanda created from her mind a more accurate representation of Vision? So that was a philosophical argument that I thought was kind of interesting, but it kind of put a damper on this whole fight that they were having, and he just flies off, and I was like, okay, well, that was that. And then of course, we had whatever was going on with Sword. I don't understand what it is that Hayward has done wrong and why he's being carted away at the end of the episode by the police or the FBI. I didn't understand that. I mean, Wanda is obviously a threat. The whole scene where Agatha releases the townspeople from her influence, and you see one of the town people even asking her to let them all die. They would rather die than be under her control. She's obviously doing some evil stuff to people. So why would Hayward be in the wrong for having her eliminated or even having her version of Vision eliminated? It doesn't make too much sense. I'm trying to think back on some of the other episodes and thinking back on some kind of laws that he may have broken, but It seems to me that Sword is kind of above any earthly laws. But they needed some kind of government agent, villain thing. That's just one of those themes that they have in so many superhero stories. So they did what they did with that character. But I'm just still not totally sure he was in the wrong here. Because one is obviously causing people harm and has held a whole town hostage. And then we got the thing with Monica Rambeau. Seemingly she has her full powers as Photon. She jumps in front. And here again, you may say, hey, Hayward did try to shoot Wanda's children, but the children weren't real in the first place. So it seems to me like Monica actually was stupid in trying to protect them because they weren't real in the first place. Anyway, it was a good way to display that, yes, she has some cool powers. And we're going to be seeing more of her in Captain Marvel 2. So I'm looking forward to that. That was at least one highlight from this episode. If we got anything from this series, is the fact that we have a new Avenger in the mix. And possibly the start of another storyline. Couple more things I'll mention. Actually, this is pretty positive for this series because I feel like Wanda got developed as a character. I don't think she would have been as well developed as a character if they hadn't done this series. You look at all the characters that have an actual arc throughout the series. Iron Man, Captain America. They were in multiple movies. You know, in the Iron Man's case, I think he was in, 7 movies as Iron Man? Actually, more than that because he was in the Spider-Man movie. So he got in terms of just a television series developing character, he pretty much had a television series worth of material to work with. And the same now with Wanda. So that's one positive from this series is the fact she was able to be developed without having her own movies. And she even got this new costume, this politically correct costume that covered up all her vital bits, I should say, her cleavage and whatnot. Even though they exploited her looks and her body in an early episode, not Halloween episode. But I thought the costume was kind of hit or miss. I mean, I like the top half of it. I'm not understanding what's going on with the bottom half. Hopefully they'll fix that in the next Avenger movie. She's still a hot woman no matter what you put her in. I mean, that's painfully obvious. And then we have another Easter egg. Actually, we saw this more than once in the episode, the reference to the Tannhauser Gate. And I'm just assuming, because everybody else is assuming, that that's a reference to Blade Runner that had obvious parallels in the fact that both movies are about replicants. But the fact that they show it so prominently when Monica Rambeau is entering the theater just tells me that it's more about the fact that in Blade Runner, Roy Batty is referencing the Tannhauser Gate because it's an off-world thing that he remembers. So this is obviously telling us that Monica's going to space. I should also mention that Tannhauser was actually a really popular opera by Richard Wagner. So I don't know if that... I really doubt that the showrunners have any kind of idea who Richard Wagner is. I think it would be stretching it a little bit to say that they're referencing the opera. So that's about it. And I already referenced the fact that, yes, Wanda is reading the Darkhold. So there are some obvious parallels to the Dark Phoenix. And that should play out over either the next season that they decide to do one or in the Avenger movies. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But that's all I got for today. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and share. And I will see you when I see you. Thanks for watching.